Hey guys, John Covey here. Thanks a lot for taking the time to learn how to play the cell biology game, which I have set up right here. Hopefully I can teach you how to play with this video. That way you don't have to read all of the rules. But here we go. So I'm going to start by going over just the base game, and then we'll talk about the medium weight and the strategy versions in a little bit. But in the base game, we're going to remove some of the cards. So there are 9 cards that are going to be removed from the cell components. 3 of them are the helper T cells, and the rest are these immune response virus cards. Now from the event deck, which is this red deck up here, we're going to remove the 6 virus cards. And from the endgame goals, we're going to remove the 2 cards that refer to immune response and viruses. We won't be playing with the player mat in this version, so we won't be using any of these dice for virus attacks, and we also won't be playing with any of these tiles. Now in the medium weight game, we will shuffle all of these cards into the decks, and we will play with them in the medium weight game, and we will also have a player mat in the medium weight game and use these dice. And then in the strategy version of the game, we will also add in these tiles. But medium weight is just this virus stuff here, including the player mat, and then in the strategy version, the expansion, will also add these tiles in. Okay, we have this game set up for 3 players. You can see green back there, blue here, and purple in front. And I'll play purple. Now to decide first player, usually we roll a dice, and then the highest number will take the first player card. Oh gosh, Shelly put a mustache on there before this video. Real funny, Shelly. Yes, roll a dice to decide who goes first based upon that, or you can say oldest player, whatever you want, but we suggest rolling a dice. Now the first player is going to get 1 ATP token, and then 2 black RNA cubes. The second player, and we will go in clockwise, will get the same amount of RNA cubes, but 2 ATP, our energy tokens, and every other player, or every player moving to the left, will just get an additional ATP token. Still 2 RNA cubes. So if there are 4 players, the 4th player will get 4 ATP tokens, and the 5th player will get 5 ATP tokens. And then the first player will get to take their action first, and the person with more ATP will have to wait to take actions until everyone else has gone. Now on the board here, you'll notice a couple of things. We have our point markers up here. Everyone starts off at 3. We have all of our resources over here. We've got our black RNA cubes. We've got our red protein, our yellow lipid, our green carbohydrates, and our ATP energy tokens. We have our event cards up here, and then each player has their set of cards in front of them. Now to begin the game, you're going to deal each player 2 end game goal cards and 3 cell component cards. You'll notice we have a bunch of cell component cards laid out here as well. You'll have 1 in each of these open spots. And then our deck is normally to the right, but we don't have much room over there. And we're also covering up the expansion, which I'll go over after this video at the end. But for now, to save room, we're going to cover it up so no one gets confused and put our deck here. Now what's going to happen is each player is going to choose 1 of their endgame goal cards and 1 of their cell component cards. The other endgame goal card that they don't choose is going to go back into the box or out of the game. It will not be part of the game. And then this other endgame goal card, they'll keep secret and they'll keep it in front of them. And this will score them additional points at the very end of the game based upon what they do throughout the game. So let's say this player wants to go for this protein hormone here. It'll score 7 health points. It'll cost them some resources. I'll explain all that in a minute. And they'll put that face down as well. No one gets to know it's in their hand. There's no maximum hand limit unless you're playing the strategy game. Then there is a hand limit of 3. And there are ways to increase your hand limit throughout the game. Now, if you were to choose this card right off, you would essentially just do the actions on the card. This one's not going to score you any points, but it's going to get you additional resources. And as the game progresses, I'll explain what this card, how it operates exactly. So let's say that now first player has chosen their cards. These will go back shuffled into this cell component card deck. Act like I shuffled those in, and I just put them on top. And each player will do the same thing. They choose the one secretly, the other cards get shuffled in, and then we start the game. So let me clean this up and I'll show you how to actually take actions. So this is a worker placement game, and let me explain what that means. Essentially, the first player, who has the player holding this really ugly card here, is going to take 1 of their meeples. And in a 3-player game, we'll have 3 meeples. In a 4- and 5-player game, we'll only have 2 meeples. And then in a two-player game, you have 4 meeples. So you're going to start by the first player takes a meeple and they place it on any spot. And then they immediately resolve the action rewarded from placing on that spot. So here in the nucleus, you see a black cube and you see the number 2 on top of that spot. So by placing here, what you're going to do is you're going to immediately come over here and pick up 2 of these black cubes and you're going to place it in your resource pool here, or your player area here. Now, the player next to them or to the left clockwise is going to go. So this player green here will now take an action, and let's see, maybe they want to place here. That's going to reward them 2 because they placed on the 2 spot yellow cubes. So they'll pick up these 2 yellow cubes here and they will place them over in their resource pool. Now, as you can imagine, the next player to their left will take their turn, and looking at the board, you see that this spot has been blocked off and this spot has been blocked off. So if this player wants black cubes or mRNA cubes, they could place here, but they're only going to get 1 because there's only a 1 there. So they could place there and then take their 1 cube and put it in their resource pool here. Now it's back to me. Everyone has placed 1 meeple, and we just continue going, taking actions like this until all players have placed all of their meeples. So let's keep going a little bit here and show you some more of the actions. We have the endocytosis of green cubes, which are carbohydrates. Now what happens here, if I place in the 2 spot, I will get to pick up 2 black cubes, but I must pay 1 ATP token, which is this red circle. You'll notice there's a little bit of a mismatch. These are blue, but these are ATP tokens. In the rules and everything else in the video, you'll see these red cylinders, but they're the same thing, red cylinders and blue tokens. Maybe I'll cover that up so that's not confusing. Okay, so you will trade 1 ATP token for each green cube that you want to collect. So we can put our, who was that? That was me who placed there. I could get my 2 green cubes here, but I would need to pay 2 ATP. And I do not have 2 ATP. And if I cannot take that action, then I cannot place in that spot. So the best I could do if I really wanted green was to place here in the 1 spot, only take 1 green cube and pay my 1 ATP. So let's do that just for the sake of showing you how the game functions. And now green here says, ooh, look, that 2 spot is open. No one took it yet. They will place in that 2 spot and they will pay now 2 ATP, these colored tokens. Okay, blue will now go, and let's see what blue wants to do. I'm gonna look at his card and see what his end-game goal is. Gain an additional 2 points on the health track for each protein hormone you built this game. So maybe I should start looking at some of these cell component cards for blue, because there's a protein hormone right there, and it's gonna be worth 6 health points. But for me, as a blue player, that's actually gonna be worth 8 health points, because for my in-game goal. So what I'll do is I'll place here. I will pay 1 ATP token, because that's the cost. So here we are taking our ATP token out of our stock. We place it in the community resource stock. And now I immediately take that card and I play it, or I put it in my hand here. Now, as you can imagine, if another player was to go here, well, let me show you. If I wanted to take this steroid hormone, I could take my meeple there and place in this spot, but I do not have 3 ATP, so I cannot actually take that card. And if I don't have 3 ATP, I can't take the action, so I can't block it from someone else. But this spot over here, you see, is free. So maybe I'll place here and I'll take this card for free and place that in my hand. Okay, so I have just placed my last meeple, and now it is green's turn, and this is green's last placement. So let's say that green has no ATP, and green wants some. So here's a spot we can go to collect ATP. This spot will give us 2 cubes. This spot will also give us 2 cubes. So they place here, and now we come over here and we take 2 ATP and place them in our stock. The next player, let's say that blue also wants ATP, so blue comes up here and places here, and we'll take 2 ATP from the stock and place them in their pool. You'll notice there's another spot right here. So let me show you what that spot does. Now, if I had not placed here to get this card, let's assume I placed here instead. What I can do is I can trade 1 green cube for 6 ATP. Instead of just placing here in this spot to get 2, I can place in this spot and get 6. So let's do that. We place there, we trade our green in, we put it back in the resource pool, but now we get to take 6 ATP and put those in front of us. You're probably wondering, we have here protein cubes, right? And over here we've got these red cubes. So you're probably wondering, where do those come from? Okay, let me try and explain that. So there are 2 areas where they come from. The first is right here in the free ribosome. You trade in your black. So let me grab my meeple here. We'll pull some meeples back and act like we haven't placed them yet. I'm purple. Let me grab my purple meeple and I place here. And now what that allows me to do is trade any number of black cubes for red cubes. So I take my black cubes here. I can trade all 4 of them. I can trade 2 of them, how many ever I want. Let's say I trade all 4 of them. I put them back in the resource pool here, and then I take my 4 red cubes that I traded for, and I put them in front of me, just like that. That was easy enough. Now the other area is in here, and this is a little bit different because when you place in this area, and you'll notice that you've got these 4+, this 4+ symbol here and this 5+ symbol here. This means this is only open in a 5-player game, and this spot is only open in a 4-player game, and the same with these circles here. Those are only open in a 4-player game. These circles are not circles where you place meeples. I'll explain what those are in just a second. Okay, so placing here, what that allows you to do is to take one of your transport vesicles, place it in one of these circles, and then also take your mRNA black cubes and trade them in to put red cubes on your transport vesicle in that circle right there. So let's assume that I have 3 black cubes here, or my mRNA, and I place in this spot here. I now get to put my transport vesicle in the rough ER. I trade my black cubes in, and if I trade 3 black cubes, I get 3 red cubes. I put them directly on this transport vesicle, just like that. Now I cannot place the red cubes from my player area onto a transport vesicle. I must translate them in the proper biology term, or synthesize them in this spot right here. I can't take them from my player pool. Now over here you'll see the smoothie R. What the smoothie R allows you to do is to place your meeple here, and then you'll put your transport vesicle in the smoothie R, and you will move any number of yellow cubes from your resource pool, if you have them, onto your transport vesicle. Now in the game there are really just 3 tracks that you can score points through. And I've already kind of showed you when we were showing you how to synthesize the proteins and to put lipids and proteins on your transport vesicles. And this is why it matters. So the first track is by building enzymes. The second track is this blue track here by building steroid hormones. And the last track are these red cards here by building protein hormones. And you'll notice that these tracks, so the blue and the red here, the blue track here and the red track here match up. So you cannot build these red cards through this blue track. And you cannot build these blue cards through the red track. And you cannot build these white enzymes through either of these colored tracks. You must build them through the free ribosomes and then in the cytoplasm. And let me show you a little bit more detail on how we do that. Let's start with this protein hormone card first. So the first thing you'll notice that it says rough ER right here. That means it needs to start in the rough ER. If we are trying to build a blue card that says smooth ER, that means we need to start it in the smooth ER. And this track is blue here, and this track is red here, matching the rough ER and smooth ER. So the next thing you'll notice is that it requires a certain amount of resources on this transport vesicle, which is that circle in the middle of the card. Both of these require transport vesicles, or I guess all 4 of these require transport vesicles, whereas these don't have a circle. And I'll explain more about that in just a second. So we need to have a certain amount of resources on our transport vesicle, and then we'll pay 3 ATP, and that'll score us 9 health points. So here's how we do that. We first place one of our meeples in the transport vesicle area. In the rough ER, which allows us to place a transport vesicle, and then allows us to trade our black mRNA cubes, like we discussed earlier, from our resource area into the community pool and then pull 3 protein cubes out and place them on top of our transport vesicle. We cannot take those. This is the only spot where we cannot take the resources from our resource pool and put them directly on. We actually have to trade them here, the black for the red. Everywhere else, you're usually getting resources in and out of your resource pool. Now the next thing we're going to want to do, you'll notice, okay, so this has 3 red cubes. We've got our 3 red cubes on there. Now we need a green cube. And look at the next track here, shows us that we place a green cube on there. So we place, once everyone has taken their turns, it's back to us now, because you can't place 2 meeples twice or back to back. We place that meeple in the Golgi apparatus. We move this down into here, and again we place a green cube from our resource pool right here onto that transport vesicle. And now we see here the exocytosis. It says protein hormone at the bottom. That's what we're trying to build, a protein hormone. We go ahead and place our last meeple after everyone has taken a turn here, and we move this outside of the cell. And now we will trade these resources, or synthesize these resources, but really we're trading them for 9 health points. But we also have to pay, or 9 health points, but we also have to pay our 3 ATP at this point once we move these out of the cell. So there we go. There's our green cubes and our red cubes off of our transport vesicle. We move our transport vesicle back into our resource pool here in front of us. We pay our 3 ATP. I've only got 2 ATP, but just imagine I had 3 ATP to pay for the sake of explaining. And now we move our health tracker up by 9. So here's purple. We've got 19 plus 9 is 28. We're all the way up here. We're doing well. I hope I added that up correctly. Okay, now if instead we were trying to build one of these blue cards, we're doing almost the same thing, except we're doing it in the blue track. So I'll gather up my meeples here, and let's act like we're trying to build this blue card here. That one in front is a little confusing, but this blue card, we're going to need to have 2 yellow lipid cubes in our resource pool and 1 green carbohydrate cube in our resource pool, and then we're going to pay 2 ATP, and we'll go up 5 health points. So let me show you how we do that now. First, I'm going to grab my worker, and we are going to place right here in the smoothie R, which allows us to put our transport vesicle there, and then take our 2 yellow cubes shown here. We need 2 yellow. We could place 3 yellow if we had them, but it wouldn't do us any good because it's not going to score us any more points. It's only worth 5 points. We place them on the transport vesicle. Now we're going to need to place our next meeple here in order to move this down into this spot. Now, if someone else had already placed here, say blue or green was in this spot just like that, I would not be able to place and move that down. I'd have to wait till another turn. Well, let's assume no one had placed there on their turns after I placed here. I get to go again now. I place here. That allows me to move this down into this area and then place green cubes on top of my transport vesicle. This says I need 1 green cube. I've got my 2 yellow. I need my 1 green. So I take my green from my resource area. I place it on top of there. And now lastly, everyone takes their turns. It's my turn again. This is open and available, so I get to go there and place, and I move this whole vesicle outside because it's just been exocytosis out of the cell. And again, here, steroid hormone. What are we trying to build? A steroid hormone. We put these back in the stocks over here. And what else do we need? We need to pay 2 ATP. So we take our 2 ATP from over here in our personal stock. We pay it. And now we go up 5 health points. So here I'm at 28. I move up 5 to 33. And we're good to go. We built that. Now, you'll see these 2 other cards that look exactly like these, but they've got this red bar at the bottom. Okay, you're gonna build them the exact same way. You need to start in the rough ER. You need to have 2 black cubes to turn into 2 red cubes. In the rough ER, you're going to need to put a green cube on in the Golgi apparatus, a green cube there. And then when you move it through exocytosis, through the plasma membrane, you're going to pay 1 ATP, and you're going to go up 2 health, just like we did with this protein hormone. But now, once you have this card here, this receptor, anytime another player builds a protein hormone, and just a protein hormone, you are going to go up 2 points every single time an opposing player builds one. And then if you were to build one, you would move up 1 additional point. So this would be worth 10 points to you each time you build it if you had a receptor. And if you had 3 of these cards, you would just pile them up, and now you'd get 2 plus 2 plus 2. 6 points if you had 3 of these cards each time someone built a protein hormone, and 3 points each time you built a protein hormone. The exact same thing here for the cytosol receptor, which is the receptor for the steroid hormone. If you have 1 of these and someone else builds a steroid hormone, you're going to score 2 additional points. And if you have 2 of these cytosol receptors and someone else builds a steroid hormone, you're going to score 4 additional points. And if you have 2 of these and you build your own steroid hormone, you're going to score 2 additional points because you've got 2, and each one of these scores you 1 additional point if you build one yourself. Now you're probably wondering, okay, these enzyme cards, how do we build these? The first thing you'll notice is that they do not have a circle around them like these do, meaning you don't use a transport vesicle to build them. Instead, you create your proteins in your free ribosome here by very simply placing in that spot and then trading any number of black cubes right here for any number of red cubes. So I place them here, I get my 2 red, and I place them in my resource pool. We've already got a ton of them here. And then now, if let's see here, let's say if I was going to build this one, what I would need to do is I first have to make sure I've got 2 red cubes and 1 green cube. I don't, I just have red, so we'll build the other one here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to place here in the cytoplasm, enzyme synthesis. This is an enzyme. And also notice it says cytoplasm, and that says cytoplasm. So this is where you go, place here, to synthesize an enzyme. So let's imagine I still have a meeple available. It's my turn. Everyone else is gone. This is a free spot I place there. And now I pay 1 ATP and my 2 red protein cubes. Here we go, 2 red protein cubes. Imagine I had 2 ATP over here in my resource pool. I pay them. And now I go up 2 health points. Where am I at? Here I am, 2 health points. 1, 2. If I was to build this one instead, I would just need to pay 1 more green cube. So assuming I had the green cube and I had these 2 red, I would pay that amount. Plus I would pay 2 ATP now instead of just 1, and I'd move up 3 health points. Okay, the nice thing about these at the end of the game, these are going to score additional bonus points. If you have, so your first one's going to score 0, and then every other one that's unique beyond that is going to score you 2 additional bonus points at the end of the game. So this would be worth 2 points. And if I had 3 of them, it'd be worth 4 points. If I had 4 of them, it'd be worth 6 points. And if I had all 5 of them, there's 5 different enzymes, it would be worth 8 points at the end of the game. Okay, so I've explained all of the cards now except for these guys here. These are really simple. When you place your meeple here, you're going to pay the 2 just like you would for any other card. And then you're going to take 1 card for free. So, I take 1 card for free. And then if I want additional carbs, pay 1 ATP per carb, gain up to 2 more carbs. So I can pay 1 ATP and get 2, or I can pay 2 ATP and get 3 total. If I had the ATP, I don't right now. I don't even have the ATP to take this, but imagine I did. I could take up to 3 carbohydrates for playing on that card. And I think that's just about everything. The only other thing, this spot up here. If you place in this spot, that means, I'll show you, I take this here, I place in that spot, I get 1 ATP, plus I get the first player card. So I come over here, I take 1 ATP, I place it in my resource pool, and I come over here and I take that first player card and I put it in my first player spot. I already had first player, if you remember the beginning of this video, but just to show you how that one works. Okay, and I think that's most of the spots. Let's see. Yeah, that's all the spots that are out here. Now, once everyone has placed all of their meeples, here's what's going to happen. Everyone's going to take their meeples. You're going to pick them up. You're going to place them back in front of you. And then you will take the last card here in the free spot. If there's one there, you'll remove it from the game and discard it. Slide all of these down. And then place 1 more card here in the open spot. So let's imagine that both of these are gone. I'll show you how that would work here. If this is what it looked like at the end of the round, this card gets discarded, removed from the game. This one slides all the way down into that position, and then we put 3 more out there in those positions. Okay, and then the last thing we're going to do is we are going to pull an event card from the event deck. So here we go. This tells us transcription damage. Cover the 2 position of the nucleus with the black meeple. So we should have a black meeple around here somewhere. I don't see it in front of me, but imagine that this was the black meeple. I'm going to cover the 2 spot, and now no one can place it. These event cards do lots of crazy stuff. They add additional ATP to the mitochondria. They add an additional carbohydrate cube to the endocytosis. This one damages the endocytosis area, covering it up. This one adds another RNA cube to the nucleus. This one forces players to lose resources if they have too many, so they do lots of things. Anyway, we pull one of those at the end of the round, we resolve it, and then we play another round. Just like we did before, but now maybe the first player card has been changed into a different player's hand. They will now go first by placing exactly 1 meeple. They resolve that action immediately. The next player goes, the next player, until everyone has used all of their meeples. We pull another event card, we resolve the event, and we refresh these cell component cards here. And then we just keep doing that over and over and over again until the last card, let's imagine this card is the last one. Once we flip the last card, now we go 1 more round, and that's it. Once that last round is over, we count up our points here, and the person with the most points wins. Just remember, we have these gold cards here. Whoops, these gold cards here. We add whatever points we gain from these end-game gold cards to our final score here. And if you've built any enzymes, we add that on here. And the person with the most health points at the end of the game wins the game. Okay, that was pretty crude, and I'm sorry for that, but hopefully you now know how to play the game. And if you have any questions, you can cite the rule book. And I will quickly go over the virus cards and the virus play in the game now. Okay, if we are playing with the medium weight game, each player will have their own player mat. You'll put 1 cube just like this on the 0 spot of each of the 3 virus tracks. We'll shuffle the end game goal cards into the end game deck before we deal each player 2. We will shuffle all of the virus event cards into the event deck, and we will shuffle all of the immune response cards into the cell component deck. Okay, so as you can imagine, these will only count towards the end of the game. But your other virus cards will come up in 2 ways, either through events after each round or as cell component cards. So let me explain how it works with the events first. And once everyone is done and taken their turn, remember we draw an event card. So here we go, everyone's taking their turn. A bacteriophage has come up. Here's what happens. The first player will take 1 red die and they will roll it. That's a 5. Now we add that to whatever number is up here in the upper right hand corner. That is a 4. So that's a 9 total. Now this 9 refers to what's called the virus threshold, or the attack that it's going to cause each player. So a 9. What we have to do is defend against this with our antibodies. Right now with the bacteriophage, we have 0 antibodies. So what we're going to do is we're going to pick up a number of dice according to the row of our health track. So right now, blue is in the red row. He's going to use 1 dice antibody dice to try and defend off this attack. Green is in the orange section of the board. Their health points is in the orange section, so they're going to use 2 dice. And then purple is in the green section, so purple is going to get 3 dice. So you'll notice you've got red and orange and green, and that's it. If you're in the red section, 1, orange section 2, and green section 3 dice to defend against this. So let's assume that all players right now are on 0, just to keep it simple. What's going to happen is now the blue player, because he's in the red track, will take 1 gray dice and roll it. It's a 3. 3 does not exceed 9. So the virus overcomes this player and they lose 1 health point. So this player will go down 1. Now, if that player had any number of antibodies in the bacteriophage track, they would add that number, 3 there, to their antibody dice. 3 plus 3 is 6. They still wouldn't have really done anything to help themselves. So they still would have lost 1 health point. Now green here is in the orange section, so green is going to get 2 gray die to roll. And let's assume that green is also maxed out. They're at 4 antibody level in the bacteriophage. So they're going to roll their dice, and oh man, terrible, terrible day. That's a 4 plus a 4, that's an 8. It's still lower than a 9. Therefore, green now, because they're in the orange track, is going to move down 2 health points. If you're in the red, you go up 1 and down 1. If you're in the orange, you go up 2 and down 2. Let's assume, though, that they rolled, let's say, a 3 here. A 3 plus a 3 is 6. 6 plus 4 is 10. 10 exceeds the virus threshold. Their antibody response exceeds the virus threshold by 1. So they'll actually go up, they were at 17 here, they'll actually go up 2 health. Now if they hit it right on, so if they would have rolled a 5 here, 5 plus 4 is 9, and we have a 9 here, if you match it, nothing happens. You don't move your health track at all. So now the last player, purple, will go, and purple is going to get 3 of these dice, because purple is in the green section of the track. So purple will roll 3. Let's just assume they get a really high number, an 18, they roll all 6s, then they beat it. Good. Now they move up 3 points because they're in this section of the green section of the health track. If they were to lose when they were up here, it'd be a really sad day, and they would go down 3. And if they hit it right on, nothing happens. Also, if any player rolls a 6, but they don't exceed the total amount that needed, this virus threshold, but they've rolled a 6, then just nothing happens. So even if you have no antibodies here, and this is, say, a 12 or something over here, and there's no way you can get a 12 with 1 dice, at least if you roll a 6, you still don't have to move down in health. But you don't overcome it, and so you don't get to move up in health. Okay, so that's how you combat the event cards. Now the cell biology cards, which are the blue ones, are a little bit different because they come up on this cell component, or I'm sorry, I think I said cell biology cards. I mean cell component cards. They come up here on this track. So here's what happens with these. If it makes it all the way down to here and it doesn't get purchased, it just goes away and discarded like all the other cards. But if a player plays on this spot here and they pay their 2 ATP to purchase that card, it takes effect immediately. So we pause the game, they pay their 2 ATP, and we pause the game and resolve this card now. Now here's what happens. Purple will immediately move up 2 because they paid 2 for that card. So here we move up 2 in this section. Oop, there we go. Now if this card was in one of the free spots, like right here, then they wouldn't have moved up at all. They would have stayed right where they're at. And if it was 3, they would have moved up 3 because they paid 3 for it. So, but we paid 2, so we move up 2. Now, because I'm the player that purchased this card, I also get to pay additional ATP right now to move up even further. So I could pay 2 more ATP for a total of 4 and move all the way up to the 4 spot. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to roll a number of these virus dice according to the health level. So if I'm the blue player and I purchase this, I'm going to roll 1 of these. If I'm the green player, I'm going to roll 2 of these. Sorry, 2. And if I am the purple player, I'm going to roll all 3 of these to attack all the other players. So here I go. I roll all 3, and then we add all 3 of these dice up. So we get a 4 plus a 5 plus a 2, or a 2, 2, 2, and a 5. What's that? It's 11. Now, all players are going to have to defend that with their antibody level and the number of antibody dice they get to roll. And again, if you're in the red zone, you roll 1 dice, orange zone, you roll 2, and green zone, you roll 3. Now, I get a choice since I'm the one who purchased this. I'm sorry, no, I don't get a choice. I am going to try and defend that with as many dice as I roll, but I get to add mine now to the antibody track that I was allowed to move up before I roll. All the other players, they don't get to move their antibody track up by paying ATP until after they roll. So when I purchase this, I move this up according to the ATP that I pay before I roll. The other players, once they're done rolling, here we go, there's my defense. I go down in health, let's say, or I go up, it doesn't matter. Now what I can do is I can pay ATP to move my virus threshold level up, or my antibody level up or down using ATP. Now, if a player has a helper T cell, it's really simple. They just get to skip it. They don't have to roll to defend. And in addition to that, they move that strain up 3 antibodies. So if it's the bacteriophage, you move up bacteriophage 3. And I think that's about it. And if there's any other questions of this, you can cite the rulebook. Okay, the last expansion in the game or thing you can test out are these new tiles. And you don't have to play with these, but we think it's a really fun addition. And so, you know, here's how you set this up. First, you're going to separate all the tiles according to their benefits face, just like this. And then you're going to take the lowest one, or flip them over. So the point side is, this health point side is facing up. And you're going to take the lowest number and you're going to place it on there first. And then you're going to take the second lowest, 2 and 2, they're about equal. So it doesn't matter which way you place those. And then the highest one is on top. Now, anytime a player wants to take this tile, what it's going to do, this tile is going to give them a +1 meeple. So instead of just having 3 meeples or 4 meeples or whatever they have, they're going to have 1 more, 5, more than all the other players. So in order to do this, what you're going to do is you're going to place in the little spot, in the printed version that I had for you guys, I think the spot's up here, and then this is the cost over here. So they place their meeple here, and then they're going to move down 3 health points and pay 2 ATP and 2 protein. So here's my 2 protein, and I only have 1 ATP, so let me act like I have 2. I pay these to the resource pool, and then I am purple. I only have 2 health points. So I could not take that action. I must have the health points in order to pay it. Let's assume someone else already bought this one and it's on their player mat. This one only costs 2 health points. Okay, so now I'm gonna move down 2 health points, and then I'm gonna take that tile, I'm gonna flip it face up and put it on any one of the open squares on my player mat. If I don't have an open square available, I can't purchase any more of those. And now what that's gonna give me is an additional meeple throughout the game. So I'll grab a meeple out of the bag or where else, and next round I'll have 1 more meeple than everyone else.